What is going on, guys? Good morning. Good morning. We are here live for another episode of Q&A. Just making sure we're live in the right places. So if you're coming into this one live, guys, let us know. We're going to be starting in 2.5 minutes. Ready to rock and roll for a big Friday or a finish to your Thursday, if indeed it is. Let us know when you're coming into this one live, guys. I want to hashtag I'm live in the comments. Now, if you are watching this one on replay, you know the drill. You just need to get down there and say hashtag replay. By the way, guys, look at this, all the crew streaming in. How good. If you have any live questions, this is the place to ask them. There is nothing that you cannot ask live, okay? If I cannot get you the answer immediately, I will find it for you and make sure that we are giving you guys what you needed. So we're going to be starting in just over a minute and a half, guys. So happy Friday. Good morning to all of the Aussies, to my faves in the UK, Canada, and the US. Guys, happy Thursday. I hope you're having a beautiful start to, end to your day, rather. Coming to you live from Mexico, of all places. Dude, it is so freaking nice here. I think, you know what? I've just been super jealous being stuck in Canada and seeing all my Aussie friends having just been through their beautiful warm summer and being able to duck off to Bali. I absolutely love Bali. There's the bogan side of Bali, but if you know where to go, it is like epic. But there's nowhere, or I couldn't find anywhere on this side of the world that was kind of, I guess, a little bit cheaper to be able to go to more frequently. And I think I found the place. So we're in the southwestern tip of Mexico. It's called Baja California, or Cabo San Lucas, if you've ever heard of that before. And pretty freaking special, guys. So hopefully the internet stands up okay. Guys, we're starting in 30 seconds. Who's my team? Cherie, what is going on, my good thing? Your win the other day just made my heart melt, so thank you for sharing. Morning, mate. Whoever this is, you need to click that link straight above there. JC Williams, however, you legend. Xanth is in here as well. Tezza, good morning. You must be getting close to your trip as well, Tez. Another morning. Just get up there if I'm not saying your name and you are live. Loz Taylor, what's going on, girl? Your consistency hasn't changed. Ash, how are you, mate? Kenny and Hayes are here as normal. Jen Lovegrow is here as normal. Wazzy, what's going on, big dog? I hope you're good, mate. And we've got Chris Lewis becoming very consistent again, Chris, going through a nice purple patch. I love it. Guys, be reminded, anything you want to know, anything you want to ask, this is the place to do it. We've also got a couple of new people in our crew this week. So beautiful, happy day to you. All right, let's get started, guys. So the first question, are zero and sugar-free calories, such as in Coke or Diet Coke or other forms of those things, are they healthy? Okay, we get this question like once a month. And the reason is because it's a good question. Hey, Burns, how are you, girl? So are they healthy or are they just 0 calorie? Okay, so I think there's personally 2 levels to this. If someone asks me what's the better choice out of Coke or Diet Coke, or if they ask me, would you suggest I drink Diet Coke if I'm a massive soda fan, I will always say 100% yes. This is my rationale. Having a tiny little bit of artificial sweetener, which might possibly in the tiniest little, tiny fraction of a consequence cause any issues to you, it's worth having versus drinking 2 litres of Coke a day and being overweight, okay? Is it healthy? I'd say it's neutral. That would be my perspective on it. I actually really like Diet Coke. Personally, I prefer it than Coke Zero, but that's just a taste preference. What I do is I drink, yes, Dan Troutman, you're in here, brother, well done. What I do is drink a lot of bubbly or La Crue. Okay, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not French. So what these are is naturally flavored mineral waters. So in other words, the very extremely sweet but very low calorie addition of a natural sweetener means that they're basically no calories, but they're sweetened with an organic product. Okay, so that's the basics of it. So for me, I would recommend, and I would say that yes, that contributes to your water intake for the day. An interesting question is like, what about coffee? Does coffee contribute to your water intake? Look, I drink about 4 or 5 of these a day of instant coffee with a teaspoon of coffee and 30 mils of milk. I've looked at the science around this, and from what I can make of it, instant coffee contributes to your water intake if you're having it on water, because you are having more fluid than the potential diuretic effect of the caffeine. So all you need to think about is the net gain in fluid is higher. So that's contributing to your hydration status. Does that mean it's as good of a choice as water or a naturally flavored sweetener? No, it doesn't. But it's a good choice. The big thing you want to worry about, in my opinion, when it comes to your beverages, and you know what I'm going to say, you don't have to chew a Coke. So what this means is that you can put lots of calories in very, very quickly, right? And so if I was to pick 3 of the top things to do to eliminate calories from your diet easily and lose weight easily, it's the omission of liquid calories. Literally, the only liquid calories I personally drink, like I can't even think of an exception, are low-calorie beers or wine and skim milk with my coffee. Like I don't think, just like thinking about this, I don't think I actually have any other form of liquid calories. So this eliminates like an entire food group that could be causing the majority of people problems. Back to the question, is having a zero sugar or a Diet Coke every other day a good thing? I don't think it's a good thing, but I don't necessarily think it's a terribly bad thing. I just think it's a neutral thing, and I think you'd be better to choose a bubbly or a LaCroix or naturally sort of flavored water or mineral water, that type of thing. Okay, next one up. What do we got? Now, this is topical because of obviously the weather at the moment. When you are sick, do you think it is a better idea to push through and challenge yourself or take a break? Who's feeling a bit under the weather at the moment? Not hungover, but a bit under the weather. Like secret hand raise. I know, middle of winter for the Aussies. Like it's not great. So here's the way I really think about this. If you are coming from a lack perspective and you are so worried about falling off the horse, which in and of itself is a problem, right? I'm so worried that if I don't train today, I break word with myself. You know, you've got to be able to rationalize it in your mind, right? If you are a little bit sick, as in you got a little bit of a cough and you're like, I'm going to miss the gym, well, that's probably not. But if you're literally sick and you're not feeling good, and that could be for a host of different reasons, whether it's seasonal or menstrual, or it doesn't matter what it is, sometimes it just helps to take a break. And I've got a silly example of this and how I broke my own stupidity, I guess, because of my ego. The other day, I got up at 4 o'clock for a run. Within 30 seconds of the run, I didn't see the gutter. I rolled my ankle and I thought, that's not too bad. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I got up for this, so I'm going to run anyway. Then I ran 15 Ks and now my ankle is like an elephant's foot at the moment. And that's a week later. And it's stopping me from training, as in doing run training. And I've got a marathon to prep for. And I can see all the boys like Tezza and Nick clocking up their Ks, and that's like, So don't let your ego get in the way of making a smart decision. You've got to work out, am I genuinely sick and need a day off, of which you are better to recover and take that time off? Or am I just like taking the piss a little bit? Because you know what? No one else will know. It's you and your own self-integrity, your own word against yourself. Okay? Guys, any questions? Ask in the comments. I got a great question, and this is it. I absolutely love this question. I've actually been pondering it all morning, trying to get my head around this question. It's a simple question, but here it is. What are the worst excuses you have heard as a coach? And It's a basic question, but it made me think about what sort of excuses do I make? Because I think everyone makes excuses. Truth is, me included. The most common excuse that we hear and we probably make is, oh, I don't have time to do that thing. Whatever that thing is, whether it's the gym, cook, eat healthy, spend time with a family member, make that call, start that career, it doesn't matter what it is. I don't have time for that. And it sounds like an excuse, right? But actually, when I think about that, the only things that I say that I don't have time for are the things that, if I'm honest, don't mean enough to me to make time for them. In other words, I am not in enough pain due to that thing that I'm willing to do the work to overcome the thing. Does that make sense? Like, I really would love everyone to have a penny drop moment here. I'm going to say it again. If I say I don't have time, that's actually because the thing that I am saying I don't have time to do is not causing enough pain in my life that I have to do the work to overcome that thing. So that's the first part to it. The second part to it is this. If I don't see that the potential upside of doing the work is going to bring me a greater upside in my life, then why would I actually do it? Now, the problem is, let's talk about something, a potential upside of overcoming an excuse like time. Let's say you grew self-belief out of it. Let's say you grew self-confidence out of doing a thing. Like, let's say, I don't have time to go to the gym, but it's actually because going to the gym scares the shit out of you and you are not in enough pain not going to the gym to go to the gym. Okay, that would be a frame. If you have never felt the confidence that comes from really good body image, how would you actually be able to understand the upside of this in your life? In other words, you don't know what you've never experienced. I have never experienced what it would be like to do a marathon. So I have in my mind what I think it would be like, which is motivating me a little bit. But maybe if I knew what it felt like Mike does, or like Kongi does, or like my missus does 3 times over, if I knew what that would be like, maybe actually I'd be even more driven to do it. So I think this is actually a really, really good thing to think about, guys, is this. Luke said it in the comments, you prioritize other things. And the point that I want to make is, right, if you don't know what the feeling of confidence is like, or self-belief is like, if you've always doubted yourself and you've always been very self-deprecating or self-loathing or whatever the thing is, how could you potentially understand what confidence or self-belief or whatever the outcome is would do for you? And this is where you've got to have a little bit of faith in actually just following the process and seeing where it takes you. Look, I'll give you an example. Nick Friend, how could Nick or Terry, as examples, ever know, having not been ever gym people, how could they ever know what it was going to feel like they do before they'd ever felt like that in their life? I mean, just ruminate over that for a day, guys, because to me, that is the way to kill excuses. Big time. It's just that you don't care enough about the thing yet. If you're not making time for someone, you just obviously just don't care enough about them. That's objective. If I said that I'd give you $10 million to go to the gym today, I'm pretty sure that even if you had no time, you would go to the gym because it means more to you, to use a silly example. All right, let's keep going on. Can I eat during the late hours of the night? Yeah, of course you can. This is more a behavioral thing. So what I mean by this is that if you, like, people worry about that the impact on their nutrition, on their calories, it really doesn't matter. The only thing that I would say is this. If it makes you feel shit when you eat late, or let's say the breakfast idea, hello Maddie, if you say, I don't like eating late because it makes me feel crap, then don't eat late. But if you're a night person and you stay up till 1 o'clock because that's how you feel good, and you have dinner at 10 o'clock, it doesn't make any difference to your calories, your average calories when you eat. Meal timing doesn't do anything. But if it makes you feel better, then do that. This is the practicality of it. This is more behavioral than it is actually to do with the thing scientifically. Does that make sense? Another great example is, should I have breakfast before I go to the gym? The reality is, if you're having breakfast 30 minutes before you go to the gym, you're not metabolizing that food quick enough to get the energy out of that food to fuel the gym session. But some people like the idea of having a full belly when they do squats. I personally, if I'm having like an ab or core session, I hate the idea of having food when I'm trying to tense my gut. So I'd prefer to have just a snack. Other people are like, no, I love going and doing a really long swim on a full stomach. So the advice is do what feels good. Don't worry about the science, because all that matters is the calories end up balancing each other out over the 24-hour or the week period. Okay? Couple of questions here from the field. Jace Williams, brown white rice versus white rice. All of a sudden, I can't stomach brown rice. All of a sudden, when you say you can't stomach it, is that because it's causing you stomach upsets? That'd be interesting, because the only real difference between the two, same amount of calories, is just the fiber on the outside. Or basically white rice has just been polished. So I would think if it's causing you, it's likely, Jace, not to be just white rice. I want you to maybe, let's have a chat after this, because if it's something that you're getting with lots of different forms of carbohydrate causing you issues like bread, there could be some development of celiac disease. But having said that, there's no gluten in brown rice. So that's a very unique thing, mate. I would be surprised if it's actually not something that's actually seems like it's that, but it's not actually the rice. That said, if it's a simple fix and white rice is better, yeah, so Dan's saying basmati rice probably better nutritionally. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. So just try different types of rice. To be honest, with rice, the bigger concern is the portion size. You know, white rice, brown rice, they're all good. They're all fine. But the problem is when we have rice, we tend to eat a shitload of it because it's not very filling. And there's a lot of calories if you eat a lot of rice because it's so dense. It's effectively like eating like half a loaf of bread type. Okay, I'm not trying to make it sound bad. It's not. I'm just making a point that, yeah, it's a fair calorie load if you're going to eat dense carbohydrates in a lot. But otherwise, try the other ones, mate. It's not a problem. Al Bowles. Al, what you need to do is just click that Restream link so I actually know who it is without coming to Facebook. Why do people, me included, are doing really well and seeing results and fall off the wagon and get into bad habits? I love this question, Al, and thanks for asking it. Very simple. Very simple to diagnose, very difficult to fix. Not difficult, as in it requires you to play a longer game. The reason is, if I had my board here, what I would do is draw you a diagram, Alan. Hello, Troy, where I'd say this. Okay, why are you, let's reverse engineer it rather than going forward, let's go backwards. And Luke says human nature, I like that. So let's just like keep this simple, okay? As simple as possible. What is the outcome that you would like to do, Alan? You would like to lose weight. That's a result, okay? You can't do anything about results. Results are the product of actions. You're a successful businessman, Alan. You work in real estate, you know what you're doing. So one outcome that you're getting in your career is good money, you got a good life, you race the horses, so the financial output is good. So if you were having a call or a meeting with one of your juniors, Al, what you would say to them is like, stop worrying about selling houses and worry about all these things that you're doing back here that is contributing to this result or lack thereof it. This is called the law of cause and effect. So for everyone listening, right, here is the problem. You guys keep wrestling with the outcome. The outcome is only the product of the stuff you're doing. You can't control the outcome because the outcome is just a product of the stuff you're doing. I remember an interview with Steve Smith from the Australian cricket team, and they said, "Are you going to go out there and win today?" And he in the interview, he said, "That's a dumb question. I can't control that. What I can control is going out with the right attitude. I can go out and play my shots on their merit, etc., and I can take care of and hopefully that will lead to an outcome." I see a lot of people getting so fucking frustrated about the outcome, but the outcome you can't do anything about. Stop worrying about the outcome. So what do? You go to the result. Okay, so you go to the actions. Okay, so the next level of this, let's come up a level and ask, guys, this is such a fucking great question, by the way. Al, what is causing the actions that you are doing or not doing? Okay, so let's look at the two things side by side. Whatever you're doing in your life actions, they're giving you good money, and that's good. Whatever you're doing in your weight reduction efforts, that's not giving you the result you want. So the question is, what are you doing? It's something you're doing with your physical body or you're not doing, right? As in real estate, each day you have a set of things that you do. You talk to clients, you call clients, you give great service, etc., etc. If you want to be healthy, you do a number of things. You track your nutrition or follow a meal plan, you hit 10,000 steps, you go to the gym. That's the trifecta, okay? So let's go up another level. Where does that come from? That comes from habits, right? The problem is that anyone can do what you probably did at the start and just not eat for a little bit. Anyone can do that. But how do you explain someone like Troy Whitelam losing 25 kilos and completely changing his life and becoming a healthy man? Because you're overriding your beliefs, your subconscious beliefs. Here's more examples referring to you, Alan, because you asked the question. You would have a set of beliefs in your mindset about wealth production being not easy, but it comes easier to you than a lot of people. You've got a business mind. You think you're a good businessman, so guess what? You're a great businessman. Over here, what's happening is your belief set is that I think I'm kind of like a bit fat in the mind. And so I think like that, and I think to myself, this is hard. Everything's hard. It's not really going to change for me because I'm doing everything and I'm working really hard, and it's just and so what's happening is you're self-fulfilling a prophecy. And it's great that you have these, because Alan, all of us have these things, right? We have issues in our relationship, our money, our career, our family, our health. All it is that you have a different set of belief systems in one versus the other. And that's probably because you practice most. So I hope this hits for a lot of people. This is why I'm always saying, okay, so what the hell do you do about it, Al? Well, here's what you got to do. You got to change your beliefs. Okay, great. How the fuck do I do that? Here's how you do it. Spend more time consuming more information and being in the presence of more people that are doing the thing that you want to do, like turning up to Q&As and hearing information like this, which is new to you. Spend more time with people like Dan Troutman and Luke Durham and Nick Friend and Terry Holden and Maddie Harvey in Facebook. Al, here's an idea, and Al probably won't ask a question anymore, but I'm open to answering the question. Al, I don't believe you've ever been to one of the Sunday stomps, if I'm not wrong. You live on the Central Coast. The guys go for a walk every single Sunday. I think the best thing you could possibly do, Al, out of everything, is connect to the process and get a community. You might be like, 6 o'clock on Sunday, I'm fucking sleeping. That's the problem, right? You've got to be willing to override. It's got to mean enough to you, mate. Does this make sense? Chris says there are a lot of people in the men's group that would better themselves, doing a mastermind. That's exactly right. Look, the reality of this is that our biggest winners are Luke Durham, Dan Troutman, all the guys on this thing, Maddie Harvey, who else have we got? Chris Lewis. These are people that have been through our mastermind program, which is, it's all about trying to change these habits out. My biggest suggestion would be, like get along to a stomp and go and have a walk with Warren Todd and go and have a walk with Nick Friend, and it will infiltrate you. And I guarantee you, in 3 to 4 months' time, Al, you won't be asking that question. The penny will have dropped. Can you let me know in the comments if this makes sense, Al? And by the way, I feel almost like as a coach, it's hard for me to say that because you're so very successful in your life. And I look at you running the fucking Magic Millions or whatever it is, and I'm like, that's a life to be like, that's great. That's a great life. But the problem is, Al, if you're 30 kilos overweight and you die of a heart attack in the next couple of years, you won't be able to enjoy that much. So let the silence sink in. Because for me, this is why we have Better Body Academy. So that you can do more of the good shit in life without being held back by your health. Such an important question. Guys, let's keep going. What are good sources of vitamin C, potassium, zinc, etc.? I don't want to disrespect the question, but when it comes to micronutrients, there's two simple things you can do. Eat a range of different foods and take a vitamin and mineral tablet. Very simple. Should I take advice from a health professional or trainer who doesn't look the part? This is such a great question, and I'm going to answer it in two ways and let you decide. I'd be actually really interested in hearing what you guys think about this. It's very polarizing, and here's the reason why. My golden rule is don't take advice from someone you wouldn't swap lives with for that component, okay? For that component. So for example, if you have no interest in being my age and my energy levels and somewhat moving towards this physical, or the way I think, then don't listen to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. Do the rest of your contract and leave. That's the reality. If, however, you like the way I think and you like generally the way I present, well, that's a message that you can gravitate to. Then you just do what I say, it works, because all I'm doing is telling you what I do, and you'll get the same thing. This is the magic of a coaching program, right? All I'm doing is recycling what I do. I'm not like, guys, a lot of coaches do this, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, right? A lot of the people that you look at, they're taking steroids and they're taking fucking, like, it's not real. I just tell you what I do. And if you do it, eventually what will happen is you'll get the same result. Look at someone like Luke Durham. Like, he looks in phenomenal shape. It's because he's just done what works enough times that now it's harder to not do it than do it. Now, that said, there is another side to this coin which I could resonate with, which is you cannot judge someone without knowing their full story, okay? And it's got to be what resonates with you. As an example, let's say you are a plus size woman and you resonate with another plus size woman that has lost 100 kilos and you're so inspired by her, but Matt Harvey is looking at her going, that's not someone I want to be like. Well, that might be just because Matt doesn't understand the story, as an example, or it might be something that I go, no. So it's for what there's two parts to it. There is don't take advice from someone you don't want to be like, and secondly, you can't judge someone without knowing the entirety of their story. So, for example, you might have a person that is a coach that's, you know, physically in a wheelchair because of an accident that's happened to them, but they have so much stuff is like locked in them that you don't know because I don't know, but you know because you know their story. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps. I will say one thing. As a blanket thing, don't take life advice off 21-year-old life coaches on Instagram. Like, there's a part to it which is like, you've actually got to be able to do the thing for long enough before you can talk about the thing. And that's my rule, right? I'm never going to go out and give like wealth investment advice aside from surface level stuff, which is you got to be really fucking passionate about the thing that you're doing, as an example. But I'm not going to go and tell you to invest in these things because I'm not an expert in that. Okay, I'm just going to come back to Al's question. See, thanks for answering the question. I've always in the past lots of weight and feel awesome, and then always go back to old habits. Yeah, because the autopilot is strong, Alan. That's the reason why. What the autopilot is, just for your understanding, is our subconscious mind, which contains our self-image. In short, your self-image is that I'm an unhealthy guy. That's it. And so what happens is, every time your plane decides to go off track and start to go to this new direction and you start to lose some weight, the old autopilot that's the self-image is sitting there going, Alan, how long are you going to be off the beers for? How long are you going to stop eating ice cream for? Are you really doing this, Al? 10 kilos is enough. Come on, mate, get back on track. And it drives you back to this position. Does this make sense? And it happens to everyone, by the way. So the idea is that you spend enough time in the company of people who are doing the thing that you want to do and practicing the thing that you want to do, and you eventually override the autopilot, which is a subconscious pattern. Make sense? Okay. We've got 3 more questions. What makes you, I'm not going to display this one, what makes you accept someone as a client or not? 2 things that I look for. Number 1, clarity in the goal. They actually know what they want. 2, seeming willingness to follow the plan. Sometimes I make a mistake. Some people are just not coachable. They just don't want to listen. And the problem is that they want the result overnight. They don't want to do the work. Sometimes I make a mistake and bring the wrong person in. And yeah, it's frustrating because then emotionally I'm bought into trying to help them. And we're sitting there as coaches going, fuck, like how can we just get this person to do the thing or just to check in? And it's like, fuck, like you can't make someone do what they don't want to do. If you follow the plan, you'll get the result. Okay, let's keep going. Some really good questions today. When did you decide it was time for a life change? I decided, probably the decision was made for me, really. And this goes back to what I talked about at the top of the podcast, top of the Q&A, which is when I was in enough pain. And there's 2 examples that I can probably think of. One was... when did I actually decide to get serious about choosing the right partner rather than making the same fucking repeated mistakes over and over and over again? When I got my absolute ass walloped by my best friend that I was with for 6 years but knew for about 15 years, cheat on me with a guy for 6 months and get pregnant. That was a pretty solid whop in the ass. The equivalent of that in my work was that when we hit COVID, and even after me working my bazillions to for another company, not getting any further in pay, doesn't matter how hard I worked, still got the same amount of money. Eventually, I become somewhat enslaved. It wasn't until COVID hit and I got my absolute ass kicked and got sacked, essentially, that I actually had the courage to do something about it. I'm completely transparent with this. It takes a lot of balls to actually stand up and do things before you get your ass kicked. But what will inevitably happen is that you're going to if you keep playing safe, right? If you keep just trotting along in life, slowly hoping to get to death in the safest way fashionable, you'll lose. I'm just going to be really, really honest, guys. I think this has been a really good Q&A for anyone that's joined. One of the things that I feel really awkward about is talking about my life. And I've talked about this before. Because if you guys, if you're living your fucking dream life and you're looking out the window and that's the ocean in Mexico, right? And you're looking out the window and you're living your dream life, it's all you want to do is share it. But the problem is that trying to share it is really, really hard when people are stuck in a fixed mindset where they're not ready to accept advice. I was thinking this morning as I was sitting on the balcony, people they think they see the highlight reels, right? And that's what it sucks about Facebook and Instagram. They see the highlight reels. What they don't see is me crying in a corner as a 35-year-old man, having just found out that my fiance for all intended purpose had just cheated on me and all I ever wanted to be was a dad, and now I'm not going to be. Or going home dejected every night, tired, looking at my missus. I'll tell you guys something. When I got sacked, Claudia was pregnant with Ocean, and I could only work for one company, the company that gave me the visa to be in Canada. 3 or 4 months pregnant, she said to me, Jace, I think you're going to have to go back to Australia and get a job so that we can make ends meet for our kid. And I'll never forget it. We were walking to the shops and she said it. And she said it probably out of a little bit of upset or frustration or fear. And I was like, fuck. And so when you have that moment and you leverage that moment into, holy shit, if I don't do something about this, if I don't get into some level of control, I'm just going to keep being a pussy and getting my ass kicked all my life. And so, again, when I say at the start of the show, stop focusing on the outcomes, stop focusing on that, and start focusing on this. And if you focus on this and you really become a process-orientated person and you play the long game, that happens as a product of this. Too many people focus on this and they don't ever get it. They're always just in this period of like frustration and annoyance that their life is not what they want, their body's not what they want, because they focus on the outcome. You've got to focus on the result, on the inputs, guys. Doing the thing. Okay, 2 more questions. We are done. What happens if I overeat or undereat proteins and carbs? Great question. If you do it for a day or 2 or a week, nothing really. If you do it for a long time, it becomes a problem. So specifically under-eating protein, you might lose weight if you're in a calorie deficit, but you'll lose muscle. And I'll tell you what, you don't want to be losing muscle, particularly at our age, our collective age. Secondly, you're going to be hungry all the time. If you under-eat carbs for a long period of time, you're going to be hungry, you're going to be lacking a lot of energy and probably constipated. So long-term, they're the long-term things. So in order of importance, this is the way that I rank macronutrients. Protein, 100%. You have to hit your protein targets 99% of the time. Then fat, then carbohydrate. It's not that carbohydrates are bad. I love carbohydrates. They're just not essential. They're great if you have that extra wiggle room in your. Okay, I'm looking at something here which is interesting. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. I'm looking at this picture and I don't know what it is. Kenny Beats. All right, so this is just a photo that was catching my eye. So if I am really, I'm guessing this is some like turkey or chicken or something like this stir fry. This portion is the portion that I'm getting in first. This is the important portion. It's not that the rice is bad. It's that if this is pushing you over the edge in terms of your calories, then that's the most sacrificial part. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, I think we've got one more question and we are chicken, yeah. It looks bloody good, by the way, Kenny. I will say that, mate. A really good meal. One more question. Can you explain why I won't get bulky if I start lifting weights? The old favorite question. And a lot of the ladies, so this has obviously come from a lady, I assume. And here is the reason why you won't get bulky. For you to get bulky, you can't accidentally do it. You just can't. To build muscle requires a lot of intention, okay? It requires the right exercise, it requires the right intensity, the right recovery, the right environment in terms of sleep and stress, the right nutrition, which is why, for the most part, a muscular body is not that common. It's because you can be lean or you can be overweight, but having muscle is harder. It's really hard to build. And I think what happens is ladies as an example, and I'm speaking as a generalization, they go in the gym and they do some squats, and actually what they're getting is a proper leg pump for the first time in their life. And psychologically, it feels like their legs are bigger. And they're like, I don't want to get big legs. It's because you got blood in your legs. The blood's going to leave, right? You're getting some swelling on a micro scale. You're getting some swelling in your legs, but that's going to go. So don't confuse the pump with getting bulky. For most men and women, if you could get more muscle, this would be the best thing that could possibly happen to you. I'm telling you, you're going to look better in a dress or a shirt. You're going to be stronger. You're going to have greater stability. If you remember the interview with Dr. Ginny, the number one thing that causes falls and eventual death and nursing homes is lack of muscle due to lack of strength causing instability. Like, think not just now, think 20 years, guys. You want muscle, like billion% you want muscle. And when you look at like these muscle heads that you see on the front of magazines and Instagram and all that, so these are mostly people taking performance enhancing drugs a lot of the time. And so it's their full-time job to put muscle on, right? And this is also the reason why people lose track on their transformations, because they can lose 20 kilos quickly, because fat, it's like knocking over a house. You can bulldoze a house in 5 minutes, but it might take 5 months to build a house. Same thing, okay? We should be trying as best as we can to build muscle in any case. Okay, a couple of field questions, and ask any other questions you like, guys. What is the average fat carb target based off the previous question? That's a really good question, Troy. So I think there's two ways that can do it. A lot of coaches, what they will do is they'll give you macro targets. You don't really need that. And here's the reason why. If you're doing these, this is the 2 steps of our nutrition strategy, okay? Freedom eating formula. Calories. Decide what your calories are, because the calories are determined by the 3 macros plus alcohol, 4, right? So whatever you do in these 4 macros contributes the calories. You can't, it's not as if one of the macros or 2 of the macros sits outside of contributing calories. Calories is an umbrella of all of the macros, okay? So if we decide the top of the umbrella first, so as an example, I'm going to eat 2,000 calories. The first thing we need to put in place is the protein amount, and I suggest just do that in grams. I think that 140 to 150 grams for a woman is great. It's more than she's ever had in her life, and it's great. For a man, 200 grams is great. Now, just to give you some quick maths, Troy, and I'm going to keep this very simple. If you wanted 2,000 calories a day and you have 200 grams of protein a day, each gram of protein contributes 4 calories. So 200 grams times 4 calories is 800 calories. So this basically means that you're going to eat 2,000 calories. Of that, the first leg of your table, so pretend it's like this is the top of the table, we're going to put 3 or 4 legs under it, depending if you drink alcohol or not. The first leg is going to be the protein, but that's the only leg that's important. That's going to contribute 800 calories of the 2,000. I don't care what you do with the other 1,200 calories, whether they come from fat, carbohydrate, or it's the weekend and you want to fit in a little bit of alcohol, that's also fine, okay? And the reason for it is because if you just have that kind of rational approach to fat and carbohydrate, unless you're doing keto, or there's not really an opposite of keto where you only eat carbohydrates. So most foods are a mix of different things, right? They're not just one macro. An exception might be olive oil. It's one macro, right? But take a beer. There's a little bit of protein in a beer. There is carbohydrate in a beer. There is alcohol in a beer. So a steak, there is not much carbohydrate. There is a lot of protein and a lot of fat. So what will happen, Troy, is if you just put in position the calories, the protein figure of 200 grams, and let the others play out however they want. If you were a fitness client, so to speak, like someone who wanted to get on stage and compete, you might, or even like really take it seriously, what a lot of guys do is they, on their training days, so let's say they're doing a 4-day split, on the training days, they might have a higher proportion of carbohydrate. So let's say we're working off 2,000 calories, Troy. 200 grams of protein is 40% of your calories. That means the 60% going towards fat and carbohydrate and alcohol, okay? The other 60%, right? So what they might do is they might say, well, on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday, which are my training days, I'm gonna go 20% fat, 40% carbohydrate. So the macro split, Troy, would look 40% protein, 40% carb, because it's a training day and I want the energy, and then 20% fat. On the non-training days, it might be 40% protein, as it always is, 200 grams of protein, and then it might be a 30-30 split, or it might be 40% fat, meaning that you would have more nuts, more avocado, and it might be 20% carbohydrate, because you're dropping the carbohydrate because you don't really need the easy digesting carbohydrates for training and fueling performance. For me, I don't do it. All I worry about, literally all I worry about, is my total daily calories and getting in enough protein. And for me, let's take that a step further. Let's go a step further for everyone that's here. If you are predominantly at about the weight you want to be, the more important thing, I think, out of protein and calories is the protein. So if you are Ash Sonta, if you are Carly Stewart, if you are Troy, if you're Luke Durham, Dan Troutman, Maddie Harvey, the most important thing for you, I think, is being as consistent as you can with Xanth, hitting 200 grams of protein a day or 150 grams of protein a day for the women. Okay? If that means you go slightly over your calorie intake, doesn't really matter. It'll just mean it will contribute a little bit to muscle growth. If, however, you've got plenty of weight to lose, and let's say you are trying to hit 2,000 calories a day, and let's say you are at 150 grams of protein, and for you to get in the last 50 grams, it's going to put you up to 2,400 calories, I would stay at the 2,000. I would preface the calories. Okay, so it sort of depends on, in terms of whether you go over or not and which one, it depends. Does that answer the question, Troy? That was a very detailed answer, but it sounded like you wanted the percentages, and that's the way I would play it. And Dan Troutman, same as you said earlier, steroids and PEDs gives people a false impression of doing weights. It's 100% right, Dan. Like, think of how consistent you've been over a long period of time, Dan. It's just like you just... Okay, well, put it this way. I dare say that I'm probably amongst the most 5 consistent people in the academy. I've trained weights since I was 10 years old, and I'm not a giant at all. So what are the chances of you doing 3 weight sessions a week and all of a sudden becoming fucking jacked? 0. So what you actually want is to train resistance training as much as you can. The upside is that, guess what? I can have a couple beers and it doesn't matter, because my engine is just firing, and I know that I don't want to be 60 years old and not have to be thinking about not having, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, or going, fuck it, my metabolism's pretty much wrecked, so I'll just get fat. Like, you shouldn't be deciding between, those two things are a consequence of having no muscle. If you could do whatever you possibly can to build muscle now, and I say this to my dad, same thing, it is the most important thing. Guys, that's a great Q&A. We went for 45 minutes. Hopefully that was some good energy for you on a Friday or a Thursday. I love you guys, and just as I always say, I really, really appreciate for those who've come in here and get their value. Hopefully it contributes to moving the needle 1% forward. Have a beautiful afternoon, guys.